Physicalism, scientism has to be explainable like chemistry and physics. Everything has to be shoved in here. Alright, here are the presuppositions. First, you have to believe in the existence of an orderly, mind-independent, external world. In other words, there's got to be, it's pouring rain outside right now, there's got to be really rain out there and planets and solar systems and stuff like that that's different than my mind. So the rain's not just part of a matrix computer program, it actually really is real. Alright? But that, you can't prove that with science. That's a philosophical assumption. Okay? And you cannot, there's no way you can demonstrate that in a chemistry lab. Alright. Secondly, the orderly nature of the external world. If there's no laws to discover, well, it's hard to figure out what a law of nature is, but there's no reason to do any research and try to figure out gravity or this and that, or laws of chemistry and physics, if the periodic table is always changing, if weak and strong nuclear force are always changing, gravity, electromagnetism, and this stuff's just all over the place. World's on a haunted house, there's nothing to discover, okay? So the orderly nature of the external world. External world, and also this, God made the universe knowable. How do we know? How can you can't? This is a philosophical assumption. How do we know that what we're talking about is even knowable? Okay, we do all this science, we say all this stuff. Well, we might be like little 3-year-olds trying to explain an NFL game or a combustion engine. The kids will tell a story, but how do we know it's actually true? Okay, and it can be consistent, but the falsehood just maps on, and that you'll make some adjustments to a theory of this engine or the NFL game, and always have an explanation. Okay, so how do we even know we can know it? The medieval philosophers theory of truth. You can't prove this is true. This is a philosophical assumption. You can't show this is true in any chemistry lab. This is a philosophical claim. And many people have moved away from, this is a common sense view of a truth. If I say Tupper is holding a little miniature marker board on 10th July 2013 at such and such PM, that's either true or false. And yeah, it's true if I'm actually holding this, and it's false if I'm not. Okay. But the other theories of truth say, no, that's a naive view of truth, we can't even do that. But scientific realism actually does assume it. If you say plate tectonic theory is true, or you believe in the heliocentric view of the universe or the solar system, you actually think the Earth goes around the sun and whatnot. Okay. Or your theory of planets. Pluto is not a planet anymore, what have you. We're making these claims, these propositions. They either correspond to reality or not. Okay? So scientific realism assumes the correspondence theory of truth, which is not in vogue anymore, and very few naturalists actually hold it. Okay. 5 is the laws of logic. As particles moving in fields of force think with the laws of logic. It just seems bizarre. It's very hard to sustain it all in naturalism. And a lot of naturalists, they just go with the habit of human view. This is how we evolved. They're not real, and we can't take a logic textbook to Cybertron or Tatooine or Vulcan. But I think that's actually just false. Yes, we can take math books and logic books to any planet in this universe, regardless of how evolution happened. But you got to decide that yourself. 6, the reliability of our senses. The reliability of our cognitive and sensory faculties to serve as truth gatherers and as a source of justified beliefs in our intellectual environment. Basically, we got to trust our senses and our minds to be able to reason about the world. Some MIT philosopher, I heard him speak, he's like, if evolution is true and naturalism is true, we should be trying to find a better banana. How in the heck can we do astrophysics? Well, actually, is adequate to describe the world. Like we might be like 3-year-olds describing, like I said, a combustion engine or an NFL game. Okay, how do we even know our language or concepts can even map onto reality? All right, how do we know that? 8 is the existence of moral values used in science. Remember, I mentioned one of the problems with normative theory is that there's moral values are just habits. Michael Roos eliminates them. Biological adaptations are not real. But guess what? Science relies on moral principles. Be honest. Intellectual virtues. Be rational, be reasonable, report the data honestly. Don't lie to get ahead in science, to get stuff published. Peer-reviewed journals. Science assumes morality. Okay? And if you get rid of morality based on naturalism, how does it make sense to justify science? Okay? That's the problem with all these things. 9 is the uniformity of nature and induction. That's kind of mentioned above. Induction, can we even reason about this? Our minds in the world such that we can reason about it. And 10, the existence of numbers. Numbers are not physical. And 3, all of those are non-physical properties. Okay? When you describe the number 2, you're not talking about blueness or physical markings. These are just symbols. And in fact, we could represent 2 with any number of languages and symbols. Roman numerals, Arabic, French, whatever. Okay? So, numbers, if they exist and are real, which all scientific theories, if you've taken any science class, all scientific theories use numbers. Wait a minute. If the concepts and numbers which you use are just useful fictions, habits of how we evolved, how does this make sense about discovering these universal truths? All right. So, once again, I think science can't be shoved into the box of naturalism. So, but most recent people climb into the box of naturalism because of science. But if you can't even hold science in here, how does naturalism become reasonable to believe? Okay, especially if it eliminates reason and science. Does that make sense? Naturalism holds to those assumptions. The epistemological view of scientism holds to to believe that naturalism is true. Does that make sense? It's like pulling the rug out from underneath yourself. All right, email if you're confused about that. All right. And one of the last problems, which I'll save for the philosophy of mind, but I'll mention here, is that it seems that physicalism is just false, and that we're aware when we describe ourselves as human beings and our common sense intuitions about the world, dualism is true, which believes that there's two things: mind, soul, in addition to brain. Okay? So we've got brains, and our brain states correlate with mental states. So a sensation of red is correlated with neurons firing in my visual cortex and that type of thing. But when we describe our different mental states and the way they are, we're not talking about our brain. Searle's book, Chapter 6, The Rediscovery of the Mind, where he describes the features of consciousness. All physicalists mostly try to eliminate the mind. Because remember, you get the box of naturalism, evolution, as Churchland says, and William Lyons, God can't insert souls from above or minds, so we got to get rid of minds and souls. Okay? It's bizarre. All right? So yeah, nature of consciousness, intentionality, the irreducible unelimitability of folk psychological categories, explaining the world around us. It seems like folk psychology commits us to folk ontology. We believe that I'm the same person who started this lecture 15 minutes ago. I believe I'm the same person, even though I have different mental states and different physical states as I did 15 minutes ago. I don't weigh as much. I'm thinking about different things. And what explains that? Well, substance dualism would explain that. But substances and souls can't emerge from evolution unless God does it. Personal identity through time. Why do we jail people after 7 years? Why do we hold people accountable for vows they made 7 years ago or 5 minutes ago? Unless there's a real substantial self, a mind or soul